kaiju, Dragon Ball, Pokemon, and more. It's Steven's Toy Reviews. Hello collectors, it is Steven here, and I am bringing you another Digimon review. This time, it's going to be the SH Figuarts Omegamon. I'm going to go with Omegamon. I prefer that over Omnimon. Our War Game version. This design of Omegamon is from the movie instead of just a general adaptation from the different source material like the D-Arts was, so we have a very specific reference point for how this figure is supposed to look. However, there is one controversial, very much so, design aspect of this figure that was changed from prototype to production, and that actually sent fans into a really big tizzy, and we are absolutely going to look at that. But aside from that, is this figure any good? It was a Bandai Premium Webshop exclusive, which means it will only be released once, and prices have soared. So, let's take a look to see whether or not it's worth adding into your collection. Before we get the review started, I just wanted to let you all know that this review is the Patron's pick for June 2018. That's right, my folks over on Patreon decided that this is the review that they would like to see, so I'm bringing it to them. If you would like to take a vote in next month's Patron's pick, or the ones coming on after that, head on over to my Patreon and definitely sign up so this way you don't miss out on any of the cool stuff that's going on over there. Alright folks, let's get back to the review. Yes, I am very aware that he is missing his mantle. That's a fancy way to say his cape. I am saving that for a later part of the review, and don't worry, it will be worth waiting until then. Anyway, for the looks department, Omegamon is actually really cool. For those of you who aren't really quite aware, back in the day, a couple years ago, Bandai folded in the D-Arts line into the SH Figuarts line, and for whatever reason, there has still been this de facto D-Arts quality to some of the figures that would still be in the D-Arts line, and unfortunately, in some aspects, such as somewhat sloppy panel lining, maybe a misaligned decal, that is clear on Omegamon here, but generally speaking, I think Bandai did a really nice job for about the $65 price point when we factor in everything that we get. Taking a closer look at Omegamon, especially the head, the face, they did a really good job of capturing that idea that this is sort of a knight. It's a very creepy knight, something that's sort of skeletal, if you will, especially with the eyes looking off into different directions, not necessarily straight forward, which, looking at the box, that's what it's supposed to be doing, I guess. But anyway, they did a really nice job making sure that he is at least looking correct. Moving on down throughout the rest of the body, we can definitely see that some of the paint applications on the chest, it does actually look pretty solid. We do have a little bit of paint outside of the sculpt marks here and there, but realistically speaking, it's nothing that you're going to be seeing unless you're zooming in really closely with a DSLR camera, which is what I do for every review. Anyway, for the Metal Garurumon arm, all kidding aside, it does look very nice. I don't see any issue on this except for just a little bit of slop for some of the panel lining when we go down to his nose, onto his snout. Not really a huge issue. I think it's actually relatively clean compared to War Greymon's arm. I do think that the panel lining for the head isn't necessarily the best. I don't think they even really tried over here on this side, but the crest up on the shoulder is really, really nice looking. I think for that one, they knocked that out of the park. Throughout the rest of the figure, they really did deliver in terms of quality because, let's be honest here, there's not too much aside from some black and white plastic with a little bit of yellow paint here and there, except for yellow plastic used for the toenails. So, unlike the D-Arts Omegamon, there's no chrome or metallic paint application here. It's all straightforward plastic. There was not a whole lot to mess up. So, in terms of paint quality, Bandai overall did a very solid job here, except for in a few key areas where it kind of makes you think exactly why they couldn't step up their game, especially for the only shot that they would have at this release. Overall, though, again, good. So for articulation, Omegamon is actually pretty nice. The only issue is that we do have some questionable joints in terms of tightness. Yeah, and this is very, very stiff plastic, so you don't want to go forcing anything. But what do we have? Well, the head is attached into the body, for the neck joint anyway, on a ball joint. So this way you can get Omegamon to look around in a whole bunch of different directions. So get him to look up about that far, down about that far. Neck is really nice. The only issue is that we've got these spikes and we got this horn, and it's kind of hard if you got big fingers like I do to really get in there and move the head around without maybe pushing on those a little bit. Yeah, you don't want to do that. They're kind of fragile too. So yeah, and then the head is actually inside this collar. Paint scraping, yeah, that is definitely something that I should be worried about, especially because, again, I've got the big fingers. Next up, for articulation, we do have the shoulders. They plug in, quite literally, on ball joints. Yeah, mine like to pop out. So you have full ball jointed range of motion there pretty much for both shoulders. For the right shoulder, you do have this portion here that does move around on a hinge, so you can move it down and you can move it up. But also there is a butterfly hinge allowing you to move the shoulders forward just a little bit like so, which is always nice to see. Now we do also have hinges in these little orbs that allow you to move the arms up and down, so this way we can get him to do a nice T-pose here. Take note that when you have Ty and Matt up on his shoulders, you're not really going to be able to do that so much so, mostly because the crest here and this will probably bump into them and break them, so do keep that in mind. We do have a bicep swivel for both arms. We do also have ball jointed movement at where the bicep and the forearm connects into the elbow on the right arm, as you can clearly see here. Is it on the left arm as well? Yes. So both of the arms, even though they are of the different Digimon, they are actually nearly identical in terms of articulation. We do have a hinge for the lower portion there, as you can see, and both of the heads are on ball joints as well, which is nice. Both of the mouths open and close for War Greymon and Metal Garurumon, which is pretty cool. Now, when we get to the abdomen, we do have this little shield piece here, this guard piece, armor, I don't know, whatever you would call it, that kind of floats around a little bit on a ball joint, so you can move it if you need to. And do we have any sort of an ab crunch here? We got a little bit of something that's not wanting to move for me. But we do have a waist joint that allows you to twist and turn him from side to side, rock forward and back. That is about it there. Now we have the hips. They swivel forward, hinge out to the side, about that far. They do swivel where the hips connect into the thighs. So you can kind of finagle out if you wanted to get him into a split pose if you wanted. Knees are on a single hinge, not double. You'd think that they'd be able to work a double in there, but not quite there. They do not rotate. Now for the feet. So we do have hinges that allow you to move the feet forward and back at the ankles, and the toes are all on hinges. Now, something to keep in mind here is that the ankles are supposed to have little swivels that allow for ankle rocker movement, allegedly. Yeah, I'm not going to risk it and try forcing mine because mine just do not want to move. There are apparently plenty of videos out there that show you that that can be done, but I'm really just not risking mine because that just, I mean, it doesn't want to move. Feels kind of like I'm stressing the plastic, so I'm playing it on the safe side. The hips are kind of difficult to move as well. They are a little tight, and yeah, they kind of throw them off center a little bit. So with that in mind, Omegamon's articulation is very solid. It is very fun to pose. We can get him in a lot of neat poses, but the only issue is that he's made of very hard plastic. So if you have any tight joints, or if you happen to slip and your hand goes farther and faster than you wanted it to, then unfortunately you may end up with a broken figure. So definitely handle this guy with care. All right, time for the accessories, and this is the part where Steven gets to do his Steven thing, and he gets to rage a little bit, and he gets to call a company out. So what do we get for accessories? We do get, obviously, the Garuru Cannon and the Omni Sword. We get shoulder parts for Ty and Matt. That's right, I'm calling him Omegamon, and I'm calling them Ty and Matt. Deal with it. So this way you can recreate when Omegamon first comes onto the scene and destroys Diaboromon. We do also get a Tamashii Stage Axe support system for Omegamon, and we also do get the cape, which can be a little difficult to actually install onto Omegamon, but once you get it going, you should be good to go. Now, let's get that cape out of the way because I know you all want to hear my rant. So for the cape, the way that you use it is you first have to pull off one of the panels on the back of Omegamon off. Then you have to fold the two outermost circles on the cape inward, so this way you have a total of what is effectively 3 holes. You use these holes and you fit them over the pegs on the back panel of that back part you pulled off of Omegamon. Then you get this nice little black piece in the packaging, in the clamshell, and you use that to sort of sandwich in the cloth with that back panel, and then you insert it in to the back part of Omegamon where the panel was first removed. Then you get this nice little translucent piece that goes into the hole on Omegamon's back that has 5 holes in it. So this way you can use the different attachment arms, so this way you can move the cape and mantle around and do all sorts of fun, neat, cool tricks with it, which to be honest can be a little bit of a pain because it doesn't like to really slide into the end clips, but once you do manage to figure that out, you can have tons of fun and it's much more expressive than a general plastic cape. Whew, that's a mouthful, and I really do hope that that syncs up well enough with the video. Anyway, time to go on my fun little spiel here. The cape, the mantle, it is pink, not white. Omegamon's cape, Omegamon's mantle, it is white. It is not pink. Here's the cool part about this, though. When you actually open up your Omegamon from the shipping box and you're all happy on the day that you get it, you'll notice that the promotional pictures on the back of the box show a pink cape clearly, and you're clearly crazy because, hey, they showed you a pink cape to begin with. Why were you thinking of anything different? That's because in the promotional pictures, they actually had a white cape shown. That's right. So this way they could be covered. They went back and they photoshopped the promotional pictures for the release of the product and made the cape pink. Yeah, we have a term for that, kids, and that might fall under the category of gaslighting. You're not crazy. Anyway, aside from that, I think the cape is pretty cool. Now to move on to some of the other accessories that we get here, let's take a look at the Omni Sword. Unlike the D-Arts, there is no chrome paint application for this one, so you don't have to worry about it chipping like the reissue of the D-Arts had. Overall, the paint application for this one is spot on. There is not a single issue here, except for the fact that the War Greymon head, as you slide the sword in and out of the mouth, because different display purposes, it may cause some paint transfer for the orange paint on the War Greymon's head. So do look out for that. Taking a look at the Garuru cannon, it is super simple and it is much more easy to use than the D-Arts. All you have to do is open up Metal Garurumon's mouth and insert the cannon. You'll be good to go. You don't have to swap out the lower jaw piece or anything like that. Last up, we do have Ty and Matt, which you can put on Omegamon's shoulders. All you have to do is pop off the current plastic pieces that are there, pop them off, and then gently insert the little characters onto his shoulders. Be careful because they are made of very rigid plastic, and translucent plastic tends to be a bit weaker. They are appropriately made out of blue and orange translucent plastic, so this way they can match the Digimon that fuse together to form Omegamon. Really neat looking, but again, like I mentioned in the articulation section, you're probably not going to be able to get as much shoulder movement out of Omegamon if you do have them attached. Oh, by the way, they are indeed holding on to the horns. Oh, and for the last part, there is the Tamashii Stage Act 5 support system that the support arm just plugs into that little translucent piece of plastic that is in Omegamon's back. Not too difficult to use. You should be able to figure that out on your own. So overall, for the accessories of Omegamon, we get quite a good amount here, and I really do think that they packed in a lot for the $65 price point. The only thing that I would have liked to have seen maybe would have been some actual effect parts, because we haven't had any of those with an Omegamon release yet, and I would have appreciated if Bandai did not try to pull some psychological bullshit tactic where they decided that, hey, we're going to trick our fans into thinking that they are crazy and that he actually does have a pink cape. End rant. Overall, worth it for $65. Now, you've seen him in plenty of size comparisons before, so here is Omegamon with some other figures you just might have, and I gotta say, overall, he is actually quite tall. He doesn't necessarily have a large shelf footprint, so to speak, but you will need some clearance on your shelf. To round out the review, here is the absolutely needed comparison with the D-Arts Omegamon, and as you can see, wow, there is quite the difference. Now, for these two, here's how I like to think of the differences. I like to think of the D-Arts as the idealized version of Omegamon, whether or not it's going to be changing the proportions to be a bit more fierce, or just a combination of the different source materials that Omegamon has been in, whether or not it's going to be X, or let's just say from the movie. Where here, for the SH Figuarts, it's going to be a very specific adaptation of a design. So, buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. Overall, I do think that the SH Figuarts Omegamon is really cool, but being a Bandai Premium Webshop exclusive, you pretty much had one shot at getting this at MSRP, and to be perfectly honest with you, Yeah, it's gone up in price. Is it worth the aftermarket price of somewhere around $100? Absolutely not, so do keep that in mind if you're going to get this. It's not a $100 figure. However, dialing back that expectation and setting your expectations at around, let's say, $60, I got mine for about $45, this is actually a pretty swell figure. If you do like Omegamon, this is a figure I don't think you would be in the wrong in getting. Well, folks, that's the end of this review. Thanks for watching, and be sure to follow me on social media to catch more behind-the-scenes shenanigans and updates. The end card should be popping up now with more hand-selected STR goodness for you to watch, so check out some of those videos. Be sure to check the description, too, to see where you can buy this figure or others like it, and some cool links like the credits for this video and other ways you can help out the channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch ya in the next video.